Hello guys, let's talk more about acids and bases, specifically about conjugate acid-base pairs. So when we have two formulas that differ only by a proton or H plus ion, those are going to be called conjugate acid-base pairs. When we have an acid-base reaction, the acid is going to form a conjugate base by losing an H plus, and a base is going to form a conjugate acid by picking up that H plus. If we look at the half reactions, we can see that we have the acid here forming the conjugate base and the H plus. And then when we look at the base side, we can see that we can add that H plus to form a conjugate acid. I hope this makes sense. So let's take a look at the practice question. What is the conjugate acid or the conjugate base of the following? So the first thing we have to decide whether we have an H plus to lose or can we gain one. So the first example is HF, and apparently we have a hydrogen there that we can lose. So this is going to be our acid, hydrofluoric acid, and its conjugate base is going to be the fluoride ion. We just simply lost the H. What about Cl minus? Well, there is no H to lose, so this is going to be our base, and the conjugate acid that we can form by adding an H plus is going to be HCl or hydrochloric acid. What about the nitrate ion? Again, we do not have hydrogens to lose, so this is going to be our base, and we can add an H to it to form the conjugate acid, which is HNO3, which is nitric acid. What about our next example? So here we have the bicarbonate ion. Do we have a hydrogen to lose? Yes, so we can lose this hydrogen right there, H plus. So in one case, we can have the bicarbonate as our acid, forming a conjugate base of CO3 2 minus, which is the carbonate ion. But my question is, can we also add to bicarbonate to HCO3 and H plus? Yes, we can actually do that. So this can also act as a base and then form the conjugate acid of H2CO3, which is carbonic acid. So HCO3 minus can be both an acid or a base depending on whether it's accepting or donating an H plus. Now, our last example is the hydronium ion. Can we add more hydrogens to it? No, not really. There is not enough space if you draw out the Lewis structure, but we can definitely take away one. So the hydronium ion is going to be our acid in this case, forming a conjugate base of water or H2O. All right, I hope this makes sense so far. Let's talk about the strengths of acids and bases. So, the stronger an acid, the weaker its conjugate base. So, when an acid is strong, we are going to get a weak conjugate base. Similarly, when we have a strong base, we are going to get a weak conjugate acid. Now, in acid-base reactions, the proton will be transferred from the stronger acid to the stronger base to form the weaker acid and the weaker base. Hopefully, you still remember that we have 7 strong acids, which are HCl, hydrochloric acid, hydrobromic acid, hydroiodic acid. Then we have HClO3, which is chloric acid. Then we have perchloric acid. Then we have nitric acid and sulfuric acid. And the strong bases, most of them are alkali hydroxide like lithium hydroxide, sodium hydroxide, potassium hydroxide, rubidium hydroxide, strontium hydroxide, so on. So let's take a look at an example reaction. So let's pick a strong acid. I like hydrochloric acid or HCl. And this is going to react, let's say, with water. So here we are going to form the Cl minus ion and the hydronium ion H3O plus. So we have a strong acid, strong, that is going to form a very weak conjugate base. And H2O is a base, but it is going to be stronger than Cl minus, the conjugate base on the other side, because the strong acid will transfer the proton to the stronger base. Similarly, when we have H3O plus there, it is an acid, a conjugate acid, right, formed from the conjugate base, and this is going to be weaker than HCl. Okay, I hope all this weaker, stronger makes sense. Now, let's take a look at the sample problem. Which of the following Bronsted-Lowry acids has the weakest conjugate base? So let's take a look at these all acids: HF, hydrofluoric acid, sulfuric acid, acetic acid, and also perchloric acid. Which one will form the weakest conjugate base? What do you think? Well, the only strong acid in this list, HClO4 or perchloric acid, is going to be a strong acid to form the weakest conjugate base. All right, I hope this makes sense. See you in the next video.